Hey guys, what's going on? Emmanuel back to another tutorial today. Now in today's tutorial, I'm going to build this functional to-do app using React, TypeScript, and Tailwind CSS. Now let me actually take you through how this application works. Right here you can see right now I have two to-dos right here. Go to the market and do the laundry. I can actually add another one. I can say make dinner. Now click on add to do. Then you're going to notice that make dinner to do gets added to our list of to-dos. I can also add another to do. I can say go to class. Click on add to do and you can see that gets added to. Now in this application, we are not just going to be adding to-dos, we're also going to mark a to-do as completed. Say I've gone to class, I can come down here and mark the to-do as completed. Now say I've done my laundry, I can also come up here and mark the do the laundry to do as completed. You're going to see there's going to be a stroke on it. Same thing we go to class, there's going to be a stroke that you've completed that particular to-dos. Not just that, we can also delete a to-do off from the UI. Say I want to delete this do the laundry and go to class, I can just come here, I'll delete this off, it gets deleted off from our UI. I'm also going to delete this off, it gets deleted. Then I can also delete a to-do without completing the to-do. Maybe I don't want to do the to-do for the day anymore, I just want to delete it off. I can come up here and say I'll delete this to-do, then I'll delete this to-do. Then you can see right now it's going to show you have completed all your tasks. And the way the application is going to work is that if you have to-dos, those to-dos are going to be listed in the UI. But if you have no to-dos, it's just going to display this H1 text right here. You have completed all your tasks. Now for this application right now, we are obviously going to be making use of React. Then we are going to make use of Tailwind CSS to actually style this UI. And lastly, we're going to make use of TypeScript for static typing. You're actually going to learn a lot from this project. You're going to learn how to make use of Tailwind to style a good looking UI. Now you're going to learn how to work with React and TypeScript. That's how to use TypeScript to add static typing to a React application. Now this is very important because companies in 2025 obviously want to see that you know how to use TypeScript to build React applications. Now if you're excited about this tutorial, smash on that like button. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm push this video to more people who are going to find it helpful. And if you've not subscribed, ensure you do that and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next React tutorial. Alright, let's dive into it. So I'm basically going to be starting this project from absolute scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new React project. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to say terminal, then new terminal. Inside my terminal, I'm going to say npm create Vite at latest. Now click on enter. Then it's going to ask me to type in a project name. I'm going to say todo app. Then we have to select a framework we want to work with, vanilla, Vue, or React. We are working with React, so I'm going to select React. Enter. Then you have to pick a variant. Let me expand this up. You have to pick a variant. We have options here: TypeScript, TypeScript plus SWC, JavaScript, JavaScript plus SWC. I'm going to go with TypeScript plus SWC. We obviously want speedy web compiler. Now our project has been created, we can cd into our todo app project. So say cd todo app. Then we can run our npm install to install all the packages we are going to be needing for our application. Now I'm going to type in npm install. Now we've run our npm install most of the packages we are going to be needing for this application. Now let's actually start setting up Tailwind CSS in our project. So right now I'm in the Tailwind official website right here. I'm going to click on docs. Then you can see right here the installation guide you have to follow if you are using Vite installation using Vite. All you have to do is say npm install Tailwind CSS at Tailwind CSS/Vite. So I'm going to copy this command right here. I'm going to go over to my terminal. I'm going to paste that command in here. Okay, that has been installed. So let's move to the next step. So the next step is to actually configure the Vite plugin in our Vite config ts file. So I'm going to head over there, then go to viteconfig.ts. And you can see this is where we're going to add those plugins right here. Then I'm going to go back to the Vite website. Then I'm just going to take this little plugin right here. I'm going to copy that. Then after the React plugin, I'm just going to paste in the Tailwind CSS plugin. Then I'm going to come back. Then we're going to copy this import Tailwind CSS from Tailwind CSS/Vite. We're going to copy that. Then we're going to come over to our vite.config file. Then I'm going to paste that here as an import statement. Now the next step is to actually import Tailwind CSS in a CSS file we're going to be using for our application. So I'm going to copy this right here. I'm going to go over to our project. Then I'm going to look for my CSS file. I'm going to be making use of app.css. I'm going to get rid of everything here. Then I'm just going to paste that import statement at the top of this file. Now that we've set up everything, the next thing is to actually run our application. So we're going to go into our terminal. Then I'm going to type in npm run dev. Now I'm just going to follow this localhost link right here. I'm going to follow that. And when I follow that link, you're going to see right now, it's going to bring me right here to our React application at localhost port 5173. So let's get rid of everything in our app.txs file. I'm going to come back here. I'll go back to my app.txs file. I'm going to close up this terminal. I'm not going to need this for a while. Then I can just get rid of everything right here. I'm going to copy everything here. I'm going to delete everything. I'm just going to add a h1 tag. And that h1 tag is just going to say hello everybody. Then I can get rid of this state right here. Then also this right here. Yeah. I'm going to save that. Now return back to my web. You can see right now we have a h1 tag of hello everybody. Let me zoom that out. Now the next thing is to test our Tailwind if it's working. So I'm going to come to this h1 tag. I'm going to add a class name of text center. And when I save that, you can see right now this text at the center of the web page, which means our CSS utility classes are working. Now in the first part of this tutorial, we're actually going to work on the UI of this application. Now if you are interested in the logic of this application, how the application actually works, then you can use the timestamp I'm going to leave in the description to skip to the part where I start working on the logic of the Todo app. I want to get rid of this right here. I'm going to create a div. Now this div is going to have a class name of bg purple 950. That's actually dark purple color. I want it to have a dark purple color background. Then it's going to have padding 2. Now you can see right here when I hover around this Tailwind utility class, you can see right now the CSS styles that are actually styling this application. Right here, you can see in this one, I'm giving it a background color of this purple color right here, which is BG purple 950. Then in this one, I'm giving it a padding. Now I'm going to save that. Now when I return back to my web page, you can see right now we have this purple color at the top of our web page, but it's not covering the entire web page. I want this container to cover the entire web page, so I'm going to give it a view height. As I'll give this a view height, I'm going to say h screen as the height of the screen. Now when I return to the web page, you can see right now this container now covers the entire web page, but there's kind of a problem. Now me giving this container a utility class of hscreen is going to have a height of 100 vh, which means if the elements inside this container overflows, they are going to be hidden. But we want a situation where if the element overflows, then the container is going to expand. To do that, we're going to give it a minimum view height. So I'm going to give this min, instead of hscreen, I'm going to say min hscreen. Now when I hover over that class, you can see right here, say min height of 100 vh. And the next time I'm going to give this a flex display flex, then justify content, justify center, then items center. I like the items at the center. Now I want to come over here, create another div. Now this is the div container that's going to contain the to-dos and the to-do input. I'm going to put in a class name. Now in this class, I want this particular container that's going to have all the to-dos and our input to have a maximum width of 500 pixels. So I'm going to say maximum width. I'm going to give it a fixed value of 500 pixels. Then for smaller screen, I want it to have a width of 90%. Then it's going to have a background of BG slate of 900. Yeah, this background color right here. Then a padding of P4. Then I'm going to add my h1 tag. Then this h1 tag is just going to say to-dos for the day. I'm going to save that. Now when we return to the web page, you can see right now our h1 tag is in the web page. Now the next thing we are going to do is actually give this h1 tag a class. I'll give this a class. Then I'm going to say test center to position the text at the center. Then text white to give it a color of white. Then last, I'm going to say text. Should I use 2XL? Let me say text 2XL. 2XL. Yeah, so you can see right now our H1 is looking really good. Now you can give this a little border radius because it's a little bit sharp at the edges. So I'm going to return back to this class right here. Then I'm going to say rounded. Then rounded MD. Then also give it a little box shadow. Shadow MD. I'm going to save that. You can see right now it has a little box shadow and the edges are now curved. So we're going to add another div right here. Then this div is going to have our input, which is going to have a placeholder of add to do. Then it's going to have a button next to it. And this button is also going to say add to do. I'm going to save that. Then you can see right here, we cannot see our input outline, but it's actually here. You can type in on our input. You can see you can actually type in on this input. So the next thing I'm going to do is give this container a class name. Then I'm going to give it flex. I want to flex the input and the button. I want them to be arranged horizontally. So I'm going to give it a display of flex. Then I'm going to give it a gap of 2. Then items center to center the items horizontally. Then justify center to center the items vertically. So I'm going to save that. As you can see right here, our button and our input are centered horizontally. But we need to add a little bit of margin between the button and input container and this H1 tag right here. So I'm going to head back to my code. Then I'm going to say I want this to have a margin vertical top and bottom. That's margin on the vertical, that's top and bottom on the y-axis of 8. And I'm going to save that. Then you can see right now there's not a margin between this H1 tag and this container right here. Now I'm going to start styling my input and my button. I'm going to give this a class name. Now I'm going to say flex of 3. Then I'm going to come over here and give this a class name and say flex of 1. Now what that style is going to do is that it's going to ensure that this adds to do input, which I give a flex of 3, is going to cover 75% of the container of the input and the button, while the button is going to cover 25%. So the next thing is to give this a border of border 2. Then I can add a class of outline of none. I don't want any outline on my input. Outline of none. Then the border should have a color of gray 500. I'm going to save that. Then you can see right here our input is actually looking better. Let me close this off so you can see our code better. Then I want the color inside the input to have a color of white. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say test white. Then the placeholder inside the input, I want this to have a color of gray. I'll say placeholder. Sorry, spell that order correct. Gray of 500. I'm going to give it a padding of padding 2. Then lastly, I'm going to give it a border radius, rounded corner of MD. Then I'm going to save that. Now when I return, you can see our input is looking very good. We can type on our input. You can see our input is looking really good. Now let's start working on styling up the button. So I'm going to give this a BG of purple 800. Then a cursor of pointer. We want when someone points on the cursor, we want it to have a cursor of pointer. Then a rounded of MD as border radius, MD. Then a font size text of XM, smaller font size. I want to save that. Alright, now our input and our button are looking better, but our button is kind of squishy. What's happening? It's supposed to occupy the entire height of this container. So what's happening? Flex 1, BG purple, cursor pointer rounded. Everything's going okay. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah. I'm gonna save that. Yeah. Now instead of the button to occupy the entire height of its container, the item center was actually forcing the button to be at the middle. To force the button to be at the middle vertically. So unlike the input that has a padding to it, the button has no padding, so the button was definitely going to be squished Now I'm almost done with the button and the input. The last thing I'm going to do here is to, when you focus on this input, I want it to be indicated that you are focused on this input. And when you hover around this button, I want it to be indicated that you are hovering over this button. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say focus. And when someone focuses on this input, I want it to have a border. Border of white. Then when someone hovers on this button on hover, I want it to have a BG of purple 900. Then I'm going to save that. Then you can see right now when I focus on this input, it has a border color of white. And when I hover around this, it has a purple color that is a little bit darker than the actual button color. Now let's make this add to do text on this button white. So I'm just going to come over here. Then I'm going to say text white. I want to save that. You can see right here our add to do text is actually white. Now that we are done styling our input and our button, now we have to start styling our to-do list. I want to create a div below here. Then inside that div, I'm going to have a h1 tag, and this h1 tag is just going to say to-dos. I'm just going to copy the same style added here. I'm going to copy this same style over to this h1 tag right here, the class name. I'm just going to paste that, but the difference is that instead of having a font of 2XL, I just want a font of XL. Alright, so we have our h1 tag right here. I want to come down here after my h1 tag and create a div. Then this div is going to have a class name of BG purple 800, a padding of 2, and border radius of 100 MD. And inside this div right here, we're going to have a p tag where it's going to actually represent the to do. So I'm going to say go to the market. Then we're going to have another div here. Another div here that's going to have our icons that we have not installed. So I want to open up my terminal right here. I want to cd into the todo app folder. Todo app. Then I'm going to say npm install React icons. I'm going to click on enter. I want to head over to my package.json file right here. And you can see right here we have React icons installed. And the first icon I actually need is one from font also, which is far check circle. Then I need another one called far trash from React icons. I'm going to save that. And you can see right here we have our icons in the UI. Now we want this text to be at the left hand side and these icons to be at the right hand side. So we're going to give it a justify content of space between. I'm going to come back to the content. I'm going to say display of flex, then justify between. And that's going to add like a space in between the text and the icons. Then I can say item center to align the items vertically center. This container right here is too close to this to use h1 tag right here. So I'm going to have something like a margin between them. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say my for that's margin vertical top and bottom of 4. You can see right now we now have a space between them. Now I just want to say all the text inside this container should have a text of white. Text white. And you can see right now both the icons and the p tag have a color of white. Now I want these icons to be arranged horizontally, so I'm going to give it a display of flex. So I want to come here to the container of these icons. Then I'm going to say I want it to have a display of flex, then item center them vertically, then justify, not justify, just put a gap between them, gap of 2. And when I save that, you can see our icons are looking very good. Now when we hover around our icons, I want them to have a console of pointer. So I'm just going to add that class right here, console. Then I'm going to say pointer. And one last thing, when you hover around these icons, I want them to have a color of gray, because initially they have a color of white. I want them to have a color of gray. So I'm going to say class name on hover test gray 200. So I'm going to copy that class and paste on the other icon. Now when I return back to the web page and try to hover around these icons, you can see right now when I hover around these icons, they're having something kind of a gray color, a very light gray color right here. All right, one last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this down twice. 1, 2. Now after doing it, instead of go to the market, I'll say do the laundry. Do the laundry. Then for this one right here, I'm just going to say eat dinner. How do you spell dinner? I think it's dinner. And you can see right now we've completed our UI and we did everything here using Tailwind CSS. Now in the next section of this tutorial, we're going to start working on actually creating our to-dos using React and TypeScript and make this little application interactive. Alright, now that we are done with the UI of our to-do app, now let's start working on the logic of our application. Now the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a state that's going to capture the values from our inputs. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say use state. Then this use state is going to take the initial value of our input. Initially, it's going to be an empty string. Now the use state is going to return two values, the actual value and the function to update the value. So I'm going to destructure those values. I'm going to say const input. I'm going to call this value input. Then the function to update the input, I'm going to call it set input. Then it's equals to the use state. Now, since we are making use of TypeScript, we have to specify which type of data this input state is going to take. Now, right here, TypeScript is not complete because TypeScript understands that this is going to take a string. So TypeScript has assumed that this state is going to always take a string. If I come down here and say I want to set this input, I want to update the state to a number, I'm going to notice that TypeScript is going to throw an error. You can see the type error right here. Argument of type number is not assignable to parameter of type set state action string. So TypeScript is smart enough to know that when I add this quotation right here, that this state is going to be taken in a string. So I'm going to get rid of this. But you can also specify the type of data that a state is going to be receiving. So I'm going to come here. Then I'm going to say in here, I'm going to say it's going to receive a string. Now after doing that, I'm going to come down here in my input. I want to add an event handler. When I type in my input, I want to capture that event. So I'm going to use the onChange event handler. Now onChange. What do I want to do? I want to run an arrow function that's going to take an event. Then I just want to log that event to the console. Console.log the event. The event. Now I'm going to head over to my console. I'm going to clear the input. Then you're going to notice that when I click on this input and I type on this input, you're going to notice that anytime I type on this input, the event gets logged to the console. Now let's expand one of these events and see the properties. I'm going to expand this one right here. Now when I come here, you can see right now, the type of event is a change event. Now, anytime my input changes, I type in my input, this event is going to be fired. Then the React name is unchanged. But what we actually want right here is the target right here. We want to target the value. You can see right here, the value right now is the value we typed in our input, HHBDND. So if I type here again, let me say type to do. It's going to get logged to the console. I'm going to scroll down. Then I'm going to open this event. Then I'm going to go to the target. Then I'm going to expand this. You can see right now the to-do I typed in my input is right here, events.target.the value. Now this is what we actually want from our input. Let's go and target it in our application. Now instead of logging our event, I want to set my input, set the input state to event.target, then that value from our events. Value. Then we're going to say the value of our input is equals to the input state. Now with this, we have successfully converted our input to a React component. I want to save that. Now anytime we type on our input, this input value is going to be updated. Say we type in T in our value, it's going to be updated. T is going to be updated in our value. Say we typed in O from our keyboard, then it's going to change to 2. Then we type D, it's going to be this. Then this, that's how it's going to work. Anytime we type in something on our input, since we are setting the input to event or target as value, anytime the input changes, anytime we type on our input, the input state gets modified. I want to take that off. Now I want to add an event handler to my button. So when I type in on my input and I click on add to do, we can actually do something with that to do value. Then I'm going to come here. I want to add an onClick event handler right here. So on click of this button, I want to run a function called add to do. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to say const add to do is equals to an arrow function. Then I just want to log my input to the console dot log the input states. I want to save that. I want to head over to my console, clear this off. You can see right now when I type on my to do, I'm going to say go to the market. When I click on add to do, you're going to see right now that the to do gets logged to the console, go to the market. Then after I log that to the console, I want to set my input state back to an empty string. Now what this is going to do is that when I go back to my web, you can see right now in my input I have go to the market. When I click on add to do, the input is going to be set back to an empty string, and we can also type again second task. Then when I click on add to do, you can see right now the input gets cleared off. Immediately I add the to do. Now the next thing we are going to do is actually create a state in our component that's going to capture our to-dos. Now when we click on add to-dos, those to-dos are not going anywhere. So we're going to create something like a state that's going to collect every to-do we add to our task. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create another state. I'm going to say const to-dos, then set to-dos is equals to useState. Then this is going to be an array, obviously. I want to click on that. Now in our add to do function, what we are going to do is that when someone adds a new to do, we want to add that to do to this array right here so that we can see that to do in our web page. So how do we do that? First of all, I'm going to get rid of this log statement right here. Then I'm going to check if not input. Now what this is going to do is that if someone does not type on that input, then this add to do function is not going to work. It's just going to return. I'm going to say return. Then under here, I'm going to say alert to do added. Then you can see right now we have an empty input. When I click on add to do, it's not going to work. When I type in something on my input to do, you're going to see right now it's going to say to do added. But the problem we are going to face is that someone can just come here and say space and add to do. Now the user is basically submitting an empty form, but it's using blank space. So how do we prevent that? So we're going to go back to our code. Then instead of just input, I'm going to say input.trim. I want to trim out the blank space. You can see right now when I click on add to do, it's not going to work until I type on my input. If I use blank space, I click on add to do, it's still not going to work until I type something in my UI. That's when you're going to say to do added. That's only when the code to add a new to do to our array is going to run. I'm going to clear that out. Now I'm going to get rid of this. Then I'm going to say const new to dos. New to dos is equals to an object right here. Now first of all, it's going to take an ID. Then the ID is going to be dates.now, because remember when you are working with React, every list you are creating should have a unique ID. Now since the dates.now function in JavaScript is going to return a unique ID, we are going to make use of that as the ID of our to do. So I'm going to say dates.now. Then for my text, it's just going to be the value of our input. So it's going to be the input. Then it's going to take another, this is not going to be a semicolon, it's going to be a comma. Then it's going to take another property called completed. Then this is going to be a boolean. By default, it's going to be false, because the to do when you create it has not been completed. Const to dos. Let me just call this new to do instead. Then I'm going to come down here and actually add this new to do to our array of to dos. I'm going to set the to dos array. Now I want to get the initial state of this to do. So I'm going to say previous to dos. To dos. There's going to take a callback function. Then I want to spread open this array. I'm going to say spread it open. Previous to dos. Then add the new to do. Now what this line of code is going to do is I'm going to get the initial state of this to do. Right now this to do is an empty array right now. So when I add go to the market, it's not going to be an array with one object in it. So when I want to now add a new to do to it, say a second to do, that second to do is going to be concatenated to the previous to do. All right, what I'm doing right here is that when I say previous to dos, I'm getting the current state of these to dos. Now this to dos array is going to be like a box. I'm keeping all the tasks I want to do for the day. Now let's say I have 5 tasks in that box already, and that box is sealed. Now when I say previous to dos, I'm actually carrying that box and setting that box down. I want to add a new task or a new to do to it, so I'm going to say spread up that to do, does spread up that to dos. Now what this is going to do is that it's going to open that box of array so I can modify it. Then I'm going to add in the new to do. Is going to be the 6 to do, which is this new to do right here. Now we kind of have an error right here. You can see right now we have a TypeScript error. This is just basically saying that TypeScript is not happy with the code we wrote. That's because right here, when we declare this state right here, we told TypeScript that this is going to be a string data type, that the input is going to take a string data type. Even without telling TypeScript, TypeScript already knows because we passed in a string right here. Now you'd agree that we passed in an array right here, so TypeScript is supposed to know that this is going to expect an array of to-dos. Yes, TypeScript expects an array, but TypeScript does not know the data type of the objects that are going to be inside the array. Right now, when we are adding items to our to-dos, we are going to be adding it in this format right here. It's going to, each to-do is going to have an ID, which is going to be of data type of number. Then it's going to have a text, which is coming from our input, which is going to be of type string. Then it's going to have another value called completed, which is going to be a boolean. Now we have to find a way to tell TypeScript that our to-dos array state is going to be taking values with this type of data type. Now since we don't have a built-in to-do type in TypeScript, we have to create that data type. I want to come up here and I want to say type to-dos is equals to, then first of all I want to pass in the ID. Now this ID is going to be of type number. Then I'm going to pass in the text, which is going to be of type string. Then I'm going to pass in the completed, which is going to be of type boolean. Then we can come over to our useState and actually specify that data type, say to-dos. But TypeScript is still not happy. Right now, TypeScript is assuming that we are going to have just one object inside this array, just one to-do. We have to tell TypeScript that it's going to be more than one to-do. It's going to be a collection of to-do objects. There's going to be an array of to-dos. Now, how do we tell TypeScript? We are going to come here and say this is going to be an array right here. Now, when I return down to this set to do function, you can see right here now that error is gone. TypeScript is not happy. Now that TypeScript is happening, what we are going to do next is actually map through our to-dos array and output it to the UI. So I'm going to come down here. I don't get rid of all this right here. I'm going to get rid of, I just want one to do. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. Then if I'm just going to create a new component for my to-do items right here. So I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to create a new file right here. I'm going to call this file todo.tsx rfc. Then I'm going to paste it right here. Come back here, copy the imports, cut off that import. Then I'm going to paste it right here. Then instead of outputting that right here, I'm just going to output the to-do component right here, to-do. And when I come back and actually save that, you can see right now we have our to-do component right here. Now I want to map through all the items in our to-do. So I'm going to say to-dos.map. It's going to take a to-do. Then I just want to return this to-do component right here. I'm going to save that. You can see right here that we don't have a to-do right here, but when I type in a to-do, I'm going to say new to-do, type in anything. You can see right now that to-do is getting added to an array. I'm going to type in a new value. Then you can see we have another one. Then we have another one. So our application is actually working. So I'm going to return back here. Now when you are listing item in a React component, you actually have to specify a ID key. And that ID key, that is a way for React to keep track of the items in the list. If ever you want to delete or update any item in the array, that's how React is going to know which item to delete or to edit in the UI. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pass in a key property. Then that key is going to be the to-do dot the ID we created. I'm going to save that. Now this is actually best practice to avoid feature error or bugs in your code. Now after doing that, we're going to pass in the to-do as a prop to the chat component. I'm going to pass in it as the to-do. Now I'm just going to go over to my to-do chat component. Actually receive that prop. I'm going to destructure it. I'm going to say to-do. Now when I hover around this, you're going to see right now binding element to-do implicitly has any type TypeScript error. TypeScript is unhappy, so we have to find a way to make TypeScript happy. Now what's happening is that now TypeScript is seeing this prop being passed to this chat component, but TypeScript does not understand what data type this to-do prop is. Now right here in this component, in this point component, this to-do app component, we already specify the to-do's type right here. But in this chat component, TypeScript is not aware of that data type, so we have to also tell TypeScript that this is going to be taking a prop with that data type. So up here I'm going to say type to do prop is equals to an object. Then this is going to take a prop called to do. Now this to do is going to be an object that's going to contain an ID, which is going to be a number. There's going to take a text value, which is going to be a string. Then a completed value, which is going to be Boolean. I'm going to format this document. Then then in here we can specify that type. We'll say type to do prop. Then you can see our TypeScript error is gone. TypeScript is happy. Now we can actually make use of our to do prop inside this to do component. I'm going to get rid of this. Instead of just coding do the launcher, I'm going to actually put the to do right here. Now I'm going to say to do dot text. I'm going to save that. Then I return back to the UI. I'm going to say go to the market, add to do. You can see right now, go to the market, get added, do my laundry. And everything is working fine. Now let's work on the codes to actually mark this to do as completed and actually delete this to do from the UI. Now I'm going to return back to my to do app right here. There is a parent component. Now this is where I'm going to create the function to actually complete the to do. Now as update the state of the to do. Now underneath here, I'm going to say create another function. So const complete to do is equals to an arrow function. Then this complete to do is actually going to take an ID. That is the unique ID of the to do I want to mark as complete. So I want to pass in the ID. Now as usual, TypeScript is angry. We have to tell TypeScript what type of data type this function is going to expect. So it's going to be a type of number. Now I'm going to scroll down and actually pass that function to my to do component. I'm going to come here and then I'll say prop complete to do is equals to the complete to do function. Complete to do. So I'm going to come back to this place and actually pass in that function right here. Then I'll say complete to do. Now TypeScript is unhappy again because we already told TypeScript that this component is going to receive an object of to do right here with an ID of number, text of string, and completed of Boolean. But we've not told TypeScript that it's going to actually receive a function too, so we have to tell TypeScript. So I'm going to come up and say complete to do. It's going to be an arrow function, and that function is going to return void. It's not going to return anything. Then I'm going to save that. Then you notice right now our TypeScript error is gone. Then anytime I click on this icon right here, I want to run that mark to do as complete function. So I want to come back to the code. Now I want to say on click of this icon right here, I want to run an arrow function, which is going to fire this function right here. Complete to do. Then it's going to take the ID of the current to do I'm trying to update. So I'm going to say to do dot ID. Now we're having an error right here. Now why are we having this error? That's because now when we told TypeScript that our company is going to be taking in a prop that's going to be a function. We told TypeScript that the name of this function is going to be complete to do, which is going to be an arrow function that's going to return nothing. It's going to return void. But we didn't tell TypeScript that it's going to take an argument, which is going to be the ID. Now right here we are calling that function, then we are passing in the ID without telling TypeScript. So TypeScript is angry. So we have to tell TypeScript that this function is going to expect at least one argument. Now that argument is going to be an ID, and the ID is going to be of type number. So when I save that, you can see right now our TypeScript error is gone. So I'm going to return to my parent component right here. Then in this function, I just want to log that ID to the console. Anytime someone clicks on that icon, I want to console.log the ID of that to do. We'll log that ID to the console. I want to save that. Then in my UI right now, I'm going to go to my console. I want to clear up my console. Then when I click on this go to market check button right here to mark it as completed, you're going to see right now I have a unique ID logged to the console. When I click on do the laundry, you can see right here I have another unique ID logged to the console. And this is how React is going to know which ID to update in the UI and which ID to delete off the UI. Alright, now what I want to do inside this complete to do function right now is that I want to map through every to do inside my to do's array. Then I want to look for the ID of the to do that has the same ID as the ID I'm passing into this function. Then I want to update that to do to completed. I'm going to get rid of this right here, this log statement right here. Then I want to say set to do's dot map. Then I'm going to call each of them a to do. Then I want to look for the to do that has the same ID as this ID I'm passing to this function. I'll say to do.id equivalent to the ID I'm passing to this function. If I actually get that to do, then I want to spread that particular to do up. Then I want to update the completed value in that to do to be true. Else, I just want to return the to do at its current state. I'm going to format this document. Now let me explain what I'm doing here. Now I'm saying todos.map to do. Now every to do, say I have 5 to do in my array and I want to update a particular to do, because maybe I want to update the to do, go to the market, so as completed, I've gone to the market, I want to update that particular to do. So I'm mapping through all the to do's right here. Then for each to do I map through, I want to check if that to do ID is equal to the ID I'm clicking on the icon on to mark as updates, as the ID I'm passing to this function right here. Then I'm using ternary operator to actually check if I get an ID that matches with this ID I'm passing to this function. Then I want to take that particular ID, then I want to use a spread operator to spread up that to do. Now, like I said, what the spread operator is going to do, imagine this to do inside a box and it's sealed. I want to update the to do, so I'm going to unseal that box, bring out that to do and update the completed value to true, then seal it back up. That's what I'm doing here. I'm taking that to do, I'm spreading it open, then I'm targeting the completed value inside that to do item, then I'm setting the completed to true. Then if the ID does not match, else I just want to return the to do at its current state. So I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to go back to my to do component. Then I'm going to say I want this to have a class name of line true. Then I'm going to save that. Then when I return back to the UI, you can see right now that all my to-dos have the line true, even the ones that are not completed. So we have to find a way to conditionally tie that p tag in a way that only the item that are marked as completed true are going to have this line true them. I want to get rid of this class name right here. Then I'm going to add squiggly bracket. Then I'm going to say if todo.completed has a value that's equivalent to true, then I want this to have a class name of line true. Else don't have any class name. Then I'm going to save that. I'm going to return back to my UI. You can see right now that go to the market is not marked as completed. Do my laundry is not marked as completed. And when I click on this button right here, it's going to be marked as completed. And when I click on this one right here, it's going to be marked as completed too. Now that we can mark our to-do as completed, let's work on actually deleting our to-do off the UI. I'm going to return back to my code. And I'm going to come down here, my todo app.js file. Then I'm going to say const delete to-do is equals to an arrow function. And this arrow function is going to take the ID of the particular to-do I want to delete from the UI. Then it's going to be of type number, obviously. I'm going to copy this function name right here. I'm going to scroll down. Then I'm going to pass it as a prop right here to our child component. I'm going to go back to my to-do component and actually bring in that function right here. I'm going to say delete to-do. Now, as usual, you have to tell TypeScript that this component is going to expect a delete to-do function. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to copy this down. And instead of complete to-do, I'm going to use delete to-do. Now TypeScript is happy, so I'm going to scroll down to my delete button. Then I want to add an on-click handler, on-click Now click on this button. I want to run an arrow function. We're just going to set up this function right here, delete to do. Then I'm going to pass in the to do ID to it. I'm going to go back to my to do function and actually test if this function is working. Now when I click on that delete button, I just want to log that ID to the console.log the ID. So I'm going to save that. Now in my console right here, when I click on delete go to market, you're going to see the ID gets logged to the console. When I click on delete do my laundry, you can see right now the ID gets logged to the console. Now let's actually write the code to actually delete a to do from the UI. I'm going to get rid of this log statement right here, and then I'm going to say set my to dos to dos dot filter. Then I'm going to get the to do. Then I'm going to say to do dot ID not equals to ID. Now let me explain what I'm doing right here. I'm setting my to-dos array to to-dos.filter. Now what I'm doing right here is that I'm featuring out the to-dos right here. Then I'm returning the to-dos that have an ID that is not equals to this particular ID right here. Now what this line of code is going to do is that if I have 3 to-dos in my array, I have them with an ID of 1, 2, 3. Say I clicked on the to-do with an ID of 1. What is going to happen is that this to-do is going to filter out the to-do with an ID of 1. Then it's going to return a new array with just 2 items with a to-do of 2 and 3. To-do with an ID of 1 is going to be deleted off the UI. So I'm going to save that and I'm going to return back to my UI. And I'm going to notice that when I click on this right here, it gets deleted off the UI. When I click on this, it gets deleted off the UI. And there's one last thing I want to work on in our application. Now when we don't have a to-do in the UI, I want to write right here, you have no to-dos. So I'm going to come back to my code right here. First of all, I'm going to cut off this block of code right here. And I'm going to check if to-dos dot length, like if the length of items in our to-do is greater than 0, if it's greater than 0, then I want to return this JXS right here. Paste that in here. Now if the length of to-dos in our array is not greater than 0, which means we have no to-dos inside our array, so I just want to return this JSS right here. I want to put in an h1 tag right here. I'm going to say you have completed all your tasks. Save that. Then when I return back to my UI, you can see right now we have that h1 tag. You have completed all your tasks, and let's actually start this up with Tailwind. So I'm just going to go up here and copy these styles right here from this other h1 tag. Then I'm going to paste that class right here. I'm going to save that. Then when I return back to UI, you can see right now we have this h1 tag right here. You have completed all your tasks. Now these to-dos and these you have completed all your tasks are now having the same kind of font. Let me make these to-dos a font weight of bold. So let me just come and say font bold. I'm going to save that. Yeah, this is actually better. You've completed all your tasks. Now let me add a space in between them. So I'm going to come down here and we'll say my2. And this is going to add the margin at the top and bottom of this h1 tag. Now when I save that, yeah, this is actually better. Now our application is completed. Now let's add a new to do. Go to the market, and that's added. Then do the laundry. That's also added. Then make dinner. That's added. Now we've gone to the market, so we can mark this as completed. You can see right here it has been stroked off. We've completed this particular task. We can actually also delete this off from the UI. Then we've done the laundry. We can mark this off as completed and also delete it off. Now say we've made dinner too, we can also delete this off from the UI. And you can see right now you have completed all your tasks. Now that's it for this project. Now I hope you got some value from this. If you did, smash on the like button and leave a random comment below. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm push this content to more people who are going to find it helpful. And if you've not subscribed, ensure you do that and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next React tutorial. I'll see you in the next video.